friends, welcome back. Today we're going to spend a few minutes setting up our next couple of episodes. In the past, I've been sharing with you that this episode was coming. It's called The Haters and the Doubters. And I've really been leading up to this because we've been talking about networks and building your network and nurturing your network. And haters and doubters are part of the process, unfortunately, but what we are going to give you is some tools for you to deal with these people that you will encounter as you begin exploring networks and start talking about your passion project. Today we're going to talk about what is a hater, what is a doubter, and why is it important for you to acknowledge and understand their impact. It is really important that we don't just pretend like people who don't take an interest in your project are not impactful. That is not ultimately helpful to you. So we're gonna talk today about what is a hater, what is a doubter, and why should you know how to deal with them. We're going to just explore that a little bit, and then in our next episodes we'll deal into each one of those areas and give you tips on how to process what you're hearing from these people, how to deal with them authentically, and how to mitigate some of their negativity so that your passion project is not upended by their negative vibes. You are going to launch your project and we want to set you up for success with your project. So it's important for you to understand that you will encounter some negativity and we want to give you the tools to deal with it. So, why is it important for you to understand a hater and a doubter? Well, a lack of support in your project can impact your confidence. People who are very, very confident, who don't care about what anyone thinks about them or what they're working on, those people are very confident, and that's great. I mean, that's a gift that they've been given. Most people who are starting something new are not in that camp. And so if you find that you are not overly confident in this area of your life, then I think that's actually very normal. If you were very confident, you probably wouldn't be watching these videos or looking for resources on how to start your passion project, because you would feel that it was all going to work out. It's important for you to also understand that we're talking about haters and doubters as it relates to your project. Unfortunately, you may have those people in all areas of your life, but we're going to just be talking about it in terms of your project. But haters and doubters can be in your personal network, your family, your friends, the people who are closest to you. They may fall into that category. They may be in your professional network, those people who are aligned with your full-time or part-time employment. Or they may be in your project network that is kind of the hybrid of those two groups and all the new people that you've met along the way. We are not saying that someone who is a hater hates you. We're talking about it in terms of your project, how people consume the information that you are providing about your project. Are they supporters or detractors from your project? That's what we're talking about. So it's not necessarily something that's personal about you and another person. It is just as it relates to your project. So it is important for you to understand why we're talking about this, because it can be very impactful in your confidence level as you start on this journey to launching your project. And that's why I feel it's very important for us to have some tools and some tips for you to understand how to deal with it, because where there's so much unknown, you don't know if your project's going to work out, you don't know maybe who to contact next, And if you have people who are not overly supportive right away, it can gnaw away at your confidence. And I don't want for that to happen where you then say, I don't want to move forward with my project. I want you to know that this is a very natural process of any project, trying anything new. And I want to give you the tools so you can rise above all of it, move on, and launch your project so that we can all find out what it is that you're working on, which we are super excited to do. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our definitions of a hater and a doubter. Okay, so let's get started. So as we talked about, doubters and haters can really be impactful on people's confidence as they try new things or launch their project. I mean, it is just hard sometimes to get started if people are not supporting you. And even if you do start your project, you may find that if people are not buying in, it is sometimes also very impactful. For me personally, people would look at me and say, wow, you've had, a career that's been in lots of different industries and you've lived in a lot of different places, you know a lot of people. Of course your project, it was easy for you to launch this passion project, and of course it worked out for you because you know everybody and you talk to everybody, and it was easy for you. And so people will look at me and think that I'm particularly confident, or I have some gift that somebody else may not have. And that's not true. It's a lot of times people look at you and make assumptions about who you are, what your story is, and they don't know really anything about you. So I understand the impact of doubters and haters, and I felt it too. And so I really feel that these next episodes are critical to your project, and getting a handle on it is really important. For me personally, my story was that my dad died in a very traumatic, sudden, violent way when I was just a little girl, 6 years old, and that one day changed the rest of my life. My mother was a young widow with 2 small children. She had no education and very little means to really support us in the way that we had been previously supported when my father was alive. It was a very complicated, challenging, and short childhood. I'm not blaming anyone, it just is what it was. My brother was the brains of the family, and I was the peacemaker. We had our roles, and that was the role that I played. So unfortunately, my mom passed away when I was a young adult, and I never had the opportunity to evolve in the family that I was born into from the role of the peacemaker. I was always the one that just got it done, did what needed to get done, and just, adapted to all situations. Those experiences really did serve me well because I could go on in my life and move and start again, and all the things that life, throws your way. I was very resilient, but I was not particularly confident, and not confident to start out in a role on this particular project that would require me to speak to professionals with money to invest in an area of which I had no experience, no knowledge, and no network. So I get it. It is hard to do, and I needed people around me, those closest to me, who would buy in and support this and not be haters or doubters. Again, we're not talking about people who hate you. We're talking about people who feel a certain way about your project. So I needed that. And I also needed people to whom I presented this idea to buy in. And of course, people are not always going to buy in. So I understood that at a conceptual level. But what I had to figure out was how to deal with the negative energy. So we're going to talk a little bit about our definitions right now. So a hater, I like to say, is someone who actively works against your project. What does that mean? So they may tell others that your project is not worthwhile. They may tell others that you are not a good representative of your project, that they like your idea, but you are not the right person for it. They may be people who tell you that your idea is bad. And so I guess that may be better than them telling others, because then you know where they stand, but it doesn't make it any easier to hear or know that it happened. So there's people who actively work against your project. I also want to call your attention to the people who seem like they are supporting you, but they make their support contingent on you doing something for them. I had one particular example in my project who took a ton of my time and kept telling me that he had a very large network that I would have access to, but he never did anything about it. He never connected me to anyone. He just kept stringing me along. And then he also, he said, I'll do this and this for you. But in the meantime, can you help me with my project on this and that and the other thing? And those asks were huge, huge asks that took up tons and tons of time, of which initially I said I didn't really want to do it, but felt like it was the currency that we were trading in. But ultimately came to the realization that essentially he was just using me, and I had to deal with that person in my project. And so when we talk about haters in our next episode, I'm going to talk about this specific example because, as I've learned, it's more common than you think. So haters are people who actively work against you in some capacity. Doubters are people who are more passive. They may be the smile and wave people who are like, great idea, that's amazing, terrific, and then never do anything for you. So they're more passive with their support. If they really believed in you or your project, they would be doing something for you. So the fact that they are not makes them, on some level, a doubter. They may be people who tell you, I don't know, this doesn't really sound like a great idea. Or this, I can't imagine would ever work. Those are the doubters. I'm not talking about people who are inquiring about your project, needing to know more to understand. That's natural. There are, people who will need to really get into the details before they buy in. Those are not necessarily doubters. Those are people who are just comprehending your material in a different way. It may be slower to buy in, but that doesn't make them a doubter. These are people who are like, go along and just either keep you at the surface of, I believe, but don't do anything, or who are just question everything and never move beyond questioning to full buy-in. Those are doubters. So I think in our next episodes, as I said, we're going to really explore them. And I also want to leave you with the idea that we're going to give you the tips and tricks of how to A, recognize what's going on, B, deal with those people in a professional and authentic way so that you maintain your own professional reputation and you do not spend time spinning your wheels like I did on people who will never ever support your project. Remember that this group, our group that we're growing here, Small Steps, Big Dreams, this group is here for support. So you will not find haters and doubters in this group about your project. We are here to learn about what you're doing and to offer you our support in that project. So Until next week, I wish you all the best. Continue networking and building your plan, your pitch deck, and all your tools so that you can move forward in your project. We're looking forward to exploring these topics a little bit more. Thanks so much for joining us. Small steps, big dreams. We're all in this together, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, friends.